Growing up, I never really had my parents talk to me about how to manage, how to save, how to invest my money. They grew up was in Jalisco, Mexico, in a very small town, and of course, every coin that came in was used for something. There was no conversation of how are we going to save this money, how we are going to invest this money, because all the money that was brought in was needed. And coming from a lower class background, they obviously did not have the education to pass on to me about financial literacy. This year is a big year for me as I am going to be in my full-time role next month and having a salary for the first time. And I think it's on me to be able to hone down on my finances because of this. I shouldn't let the fear or intimidation of finances and not having that financial literacy ingrained at a younger age be something that makes me not hone down on my finances. I really wish financial literacy was taught in school, but with many other things, there is a reason why it is not. Society keeps this mechanism of keeping the rich richer, keeping the poor poorer with financial literacy. If someone who has money and knows how to manage their money has offspring, they're obviously going to teach them how to manage their money, well, most of the time. And this creates a generational cycle of people that, again, keeping the rich richer and keeping the poor poorer. So I decided to do some research and put together a video to be able to go over some basic finance and basic investing terms for me to learn and also to share what I am learning as well on this journey. So if you want to learn some basic finance and investing terms and trying to get started on this journey, keep on watching. And before we get started, I want to say, and I'm going to say this throughout the video many times, that I am not a financial advisor. So please, everything that I suggest is my suggestion, is my opinion, but I do really want you guys to do your own research because at the end of the day, this is your own finances. So before we get started on investing, I do want to talk about just some basic finances and what I think you should have as a foundation before you start investing. Number one is to create an emergency fund. There's different things that happen in life that we are not expecting. COVID has shown this, that we do not know what's around the corner, so it's really important to have money set aside for these type of situations in our life. In my own opinion, I think it's good to have at least 3 months of worth of living expenses saved up. So this means that you have 3 months worth of rent, 3 months worth of food, of gas, of everything that you have to pay saved up in an emergency fund. Some people say more or less of 3 months. I think after you do your 3 months at least, you can work your way up to maybe 6 months, to maybe a year, whatever you feel more comfortable with. But I think the minimum should be 3 months. So what I did is I actually opened up a high yield savings account to be able to put my emergency fund in. I chose Marcus by Goldman Sachs just because they have a higher yield in comparison to some other ones, but you can also do your own research on which high yield savings account you want to do. In comparison to a regular savings account, a high yield savings account has a larger yield percentage, so in the long run this will create a lot more money, well, basically free money, instead of having just a regular savings account, which actually you lose money just because due of inflation over the years and not having a high enough yield percentage. Yeah, you're losing money throughout the years. So I want to show you guys how this would look like with Marcus by Goldman Sachs. Again, you can use whatever account that you want to use, but let's say that we deposit $10,000 and we have a recurring deposit amount of $200 monthly, and we do this for, let's say, 10 years. So we actually gain $1,116 in comparison to the national average of regular savings accounts of $198. So this is just free money. Okay, so the second thing that I recommend to do before you really start investing is to pay off your debt. It's important to eliminate your debt as soon as possible just because you are paying an interest on it. And that's just throwing money down the drain basically the longer that you wait to not pay it off. Now usually you would want to pay the highest interest rate first and then work your way down. But I would say that personally I would pay off the highest interest debt that I have, and then alignment with investing I would then start paying off the lower interest rates, just because it's important to start investing now and as soon as possible, because you're missing out on money in the long run. But of course, if you want to pay off your debt first and then invest, that is completely up to you. But personally I would do it at the same time with once I'm done paying off the higher interest rate debt that I have. Third one is to start thinking of the future you. Retirement plan. So there's two main retirement plans I'm going to be speaking on. One is a 401k and then another one is IRAs. So a 401k is usually done through your employer. So if you have like a 9-to-5 or have any type of benefits that are 401k is included in, this is done through your employer and is given to employees with taxes are deferred. So let's say that you make $50,000 and you contribute 5% of your salary, which would be $2,500, and your employer matches that full 5%. You'll be adding $5,000 to your balance each year, which is free money that your employer is giving to you for retirement. So personally, I will be giving a full, I think it's about 6% that my company gives of my salary to be able to, for them to match that. Next is an IRA. And an IRA, it stands for Individual Retirement Agreements, and it's basically an individual retirement account. So the difference between a 401k and an IRA is that you have more choices with an IRA. So you can choose what type of stocks, what type of mutual funds that you can invest your retirement account in, rather than a 401k that has already been chosen for you. So let's say if you invest $10,000 in an IRA account and $6,000 of it is in stock funds and $4,000 of it is bond funds, your asset allocation is 60-40. Keep in mind that you'll get the biggest return over time and take the greatest amount of risk with stocks, also known as equities, while bonds and other fixed income investments help balance out that risk because they're relatively safe compared to stocks, I'm sorry. Now let's talk about investing. So first is stocks. I know we've heard all the time that somebody had input some money in a certain stock and they got lucky and they won a lot of money. But let's break down what exactly a stock is. A stock is a security that owns a small fraction of a company. Let's say that you want to own a stock in Tesla. Rhetorically speaking, you now own a very small percentage of Tesla. So now that you have a stock in Tesla, your money will grow if Tesla is doing well. But if, let's say, one day Tesla files for bankruptcy, you have the potential to lose all the money that you had invested. And the point of stocks is that companies use stocks to be able to raise money to be able to run their business. Some platforms that you can use are brokerage platforms. So you can use like Robinhood, you can use Charles Schwab, you can also use Fidelity to be able to invest in stocks. But of course, always do your research on which type of platform that you would like to use. Now, the stock market is basically the marketplace where stocks are sold and bought. A stock exchange is a subset of the stock market. So if you think of the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. Now we will be moving on to bonds. Now, bonds are a lower risk and a lower reward type of investment. So bond essentially when you give a loan to a company or the government a certain amount of money and you get a rate of return based on an interest rate. Next up are the different types of investment funds that are out there. Investment funds are a portfolio of different stocks, bonds, and short-term investments that you can invest your money in to diversify your portfolio. Now, there are 4 types of different investment funds, but I'm going to be talking about the 2 main ones, which are the mutual funds and index funds. So I'm showing here a graphic that I found that I think explains well the difference between an index fund and a mutual fund. So first, a mutual fund is basically a portfolio of stocks, bonds, and short-term investments put together by a professional money manager. This is a less riskier route than a stock just because you have a diversified set of portfolio. The only downside to this is that there's a larger fee associated to a mutual fund. And the difference between an mutual fund and an index fund is that an index fund is actually um, done by a managed formula instead of a money manager. And this is why it's a lower cost because we're not paying that fee to the money manager. Usually, index funds perform better just because you're not wasting that money on that money manager, but you do have more potential of gaining more money on a mutual fund. But like I said, on average, usually index funds perform better. Now, the goal with investment funds is not to put in some money for a few months and then take it out and hope there is some gain from it. Investment funds is for long-term investments, to be able to leave your money there for retirement or for larger purchases like down the line if you want to buy a house. So now let us recap. Before we get started on investing, remember to set up your emergency fund. Emergency funds are really important because, like I said before, you don't know what's around the corner. If you get laid off from your job, if you have a medical emergency that needs to be paid for, you want to have that money just in case. Like I said before, I think 3 months of living expenses should be at least the minimum. You can work your way up or whatever feels most comfortable for you if you were in that situation. Number 2, pay off your debt. You do not want to be throwing money down the drain and paying someone else more money than you necessarily have to. So remember to start paying off your high interest debt first and then work your way down. Next, always start thinking about your future self. Make sure you have a retirement plan or retirement account established either through your employer with a 401k or through an IRA or both. You can start investing now. You should have invested yesterday. That's what I've been hearing a lot. I am going to link some videos and some different links that I used during this research that I think will be really helpful to get you started on this journey. Like I said before, I am documenting this video just because I know that I am not alone when it comes to financial literacy, and I think people that look like me, people that come from a similar background can benefit from this knowledge. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one.